psychological occurrence in which an individual doubts their skills, talent, and accomplishments and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. Hello, my name is Israel and I am a software developer with 6 years of experience and I too experience imposter syndrome. And this is my story. So my software development journey started 6 years ago at a coding bootcamp called Origin Code Academy. Before I started, I was going to community college to get my computer science degree, but it was taking too long and I was a bit impatient. I was broke, determined, and hated college. So I found this coding bootcamp, which in 12 weeks said it would help you get a job or your money back. So I didn't have much to lose and I decided to take a leap of faith and a chance to go do it. I sold my car, which gave me enough runway, I would say, for about 3 months. So I planned it out. I decided that that's all I would do. It was essentially 9 to 5. So I had to attend the coding bootcamp school 9 to 5 like a regular job, Monday through Friday for 12 weeks. I did 10,000 points in Team Treehouse, this platform where you go in and you learn to become a front-end developer. There's also stuff for Java and other languages. Part of the requirement to get into Origin Code Academy was that you had to get 10,000 points there. So before even starting the coding bootcamp, I spent most of my time doing this course and making sure I reached 10,000 points. To get to that goal before the start date, which was around April of 2016. I saw it as like worst case scenario. If something goes wrong, I either get my money back or I learned a new skill. I was very good at networking. So I'd make sure I go to all the tech meetups, whether it's like JavaScript meetups, coding meetups, anything of that sort. There's also Startup Week, which at the coding school, at Origin Code Academy, they recommended for us to go. We got a discount and attended that. I networked with anyone and everyone that I could and built my LinkedIn. After graduation, I spent all my time applying to all jobs, whether it was in LinkedIn, Indeed, anything I could find, Craigslist. I asked around. So 3 weeks after I spent all my time applying, I got my first job at a company that did healthcare reform. That company taught me a lot. It's like a roller coaster, a lot of ups and downs. So I was there for about 1 year and like 3 months, then got laid off. And luckily with my constant networking, I was able to get another job not too long after I got laid off at a voter registration company, going into it knowing that it was a startup and it might not last that long. This was told to me beforehand, but I still took the chance because I was learning and wanted to build my experience. And there I definitely got the feel and experience of my first startup. The whole ping pong table, have drinks sometimes once work was done, snacks in the kitchen, unlimited coffee, unlimited PTO, but all that didn't last very long. It was only for like 10 months that I was there due to certain circumstances of it being a startup. They had layoffs. My time there ended after 10 months. It was short, but a great experience of working at a startup. Made some friends there, long-term relationships. After being laid off from that voter registration company, I had my biggest challenge of seeing if this was the career for me. So the imposter syndrome hit even more here because I wasn't getting as many interviews as I'd like, even with having 2 jobs, past jobs, and I guess I would say 2 years of experience. I wouldn't get contacted as much as I thought I would be. I did struggle, so I spent 6 months interviewing or trying to interview and applying to countless jobs. I remember having like a spreadsheet, a Google spreadsheet where it was just like job after job, probably applied to 250 plus jobs. Due to my networking, I did land an interview with Google, which was very exciting, but it definitely made the imposter syndrome kick in because they got in depth into data structures, algorithms, and among other things that I wasn't accustomed to, because I was still fresh in my career and I went through a coding bootcamp and I didn't go through college. And I didn't learn a lot of the basics, obviously, because it was only 12 months, but it did get me into the industry faster. The interview was definitely an experience because it was so stressful to study for. I tried reading the Cracking the Coding interview book, bought a course called Interview Cake, where it teaches you algorithms and data structures and how to interview with these big tech giants. But the imposter syndrome definitely hit because I felt like maybe I need to go back to college because I didn't know these things. Maybe I needed a degree, maybe I didn't belong doing what I was doing. I didn't get that job as much as I tried. I do remember though getting to my last little bit of money left to pay my bills. I think I had about a month's worth left, and I remember I was thinking of other possibilities of like, maybe this isn't the path for me. Like, I need to make money, I need to pay bills. What else can I do? And for a little bit I did consider driving Lyft. I remember asking my sister if it was a possibility I could borrow her car, since at the time the car I had wouldn't have gotten accepted for Lyft. That thought came into my mind, but I do remember staying true to myself and knowing that no matter what, I really wanted to be in software and I was gonna make it happen one way or another. And thankfully, through my networking and friends and keeping relationships, one of my friends helped me get a gig at a transportation company. So I didn't have to do Lyft. I stuck to my guns and kept pushing forward in faith that it would work out, because that's what I really wanted to be doing. No matter how I felt or rejections or no's I got, it was just constant moving forward. No matter what it was, like I would figure it out because that's what I wanted to do. And there was no other option that I was gonna do. I wasn't gonna drive Lyft or figure other things out. I was gonna make sure I kept going with this career. So then I got to another company that did transportation. They're rebuilding their old applications to replace it with this new application with new technologies. To me, it helped solidify that like I was able to jump into like any job and learn whatever it was. So it was always more of like whatever I didn't know at the time could be learned whenever I got into that new position, new job, so whatever it was. So that kind of kept me going. That gig also didn't last very long. It was layoff after layoff, so I got laid off after 10 months because they were shelving that application that they were creating. I did have some fun since I worked with one of my friends, but it wasn't fully what I was looking for. So to another layoff, to then, I remember the day I got laid off, my friend asked me if I wanted to go grab a drink or just get some food to like get my mind away, but I ended up just going home and doing what I do best, updating my resume and then applying like a madman to as many jobs as possible, because consistency, being persistent, that's the key one right there, persistence. I kept pushing forward. I was like, okay, well, gotta do it again. I had already been laid off twice, so what's another time? I did take some time, interviewed. I believe this time around I interviewed with Facebook, but that didn't work. That's when like imposter syndrome kicks in with these big tech companies, is you have this generalist interview that you have to go through with like data structures and algorithms and other questions that you get asked. And as much as I like tried to study with like LeetCode, HackerRank, all these platforms where you do coding challenges to then prep yourself for these interviews, it didn't help as much as I needed or as much as I tried to learn, grasp the concepts, the algorithms, studied. And like I even have a book right here where it's like all the notes from when I would study trees, binary trees, linked lists, queues, and it was just like pages and pages to try to learn everything I needed to learn to then pass those interviews and get my foot into these positions. And it was challenging because I had other friends who got into certain jobs where they were there for 5 years, but I got laid off back to back to back at 3 jobs. And that always challenged, like, is this where you should be? Are you doing the right thing? Maybe you don't belong there. Maybe your skills aren't good. You know, I just kept going because I knew I always wanted to have a software development job where I could work anywhere and all I needed was a laptop to then just be able to live my dream remote, be anywhere. Luckily, after some time, I was able to find a freelance job. So I picked up some freelance and there was a rebuild of an application. And the way I found this gig is I saw someone post on a Facebook group for SD tech founders and startup Facebook group. And I reached out and I gave my experience. And, you know, thankfully I got the opportunity to take on this task and contribute and keep growing my skills and show that, because I was getting closer to what I envisioned my life being, and I was able to work remote take huge lead on this rebuild of this application, and I learned so much. And I was there for about a year and like 5 months, and because of the challenges that come with freelancing, I decided I was gonna look into like more permanent role. Already this was like the 4th gig. I hadn't had the opportunity yet to be at a position where I was there more than 2 years. You know, due to circumstances, like I said, other people got that and I didn't. So I was constantly like, is this like, you know, that imposter syndrome of like, is this where you belong? You know, maybe you should go back to school and like get your degree and maybe you'll get considered more or be, I would just say like worthy of these positions. So that thought has always been constant in my mind, but I have always wanted to work on more my own projects. So I pursued that over going back to school. And after the freelance, started looking for a permanent position, and I found one at a medical device company that I work at. Thankfully, through a connection, a friend once again goes back for me to networking. You know, I build connections, build relationships, friendships, long-lasting ones that have served me very well and have helped me out in my career. I definitely credit that to all my friends, which I greatly appreciate, that helped me out along the way. Now I'm going on to over a year and a half of being there, and as situations come forward and new opportunities to grow, sometimes the thought of like whether or not this is for me, or like, you know, or are you up to the challenge? Are you gonna be able to deliver what is asked of you? And it's like, you know, I've made it this far after all these hurdles and ups and downs and having my cards dealt differently than other people. But one thing I do say is no matter what, it's like I've been staying consistent with doing the things I do and persistent, always just another step forward, just keep stepping forward in faith that it'll all work out. And, you know, shut that imposter syndrome monkey that comes into my mind, just shut it out, because it tries to tell me otherwise that, hey, maybe you need to go back to school, or maybe are you gonna be able to do it or not? And it's just keep pushing forward, you know, stay persistent, keeping faith in my abilities that I'll be able to do it no matter what it is. And, you know, it ain't always perfect, but, you know, progression over perfection. I wrote this down as a conclusion, and I write, as I advance in my career, new challenges arise, putting to the test everything I have gone through and accomplished. I make sure to remind myself to keep showing up and being persistent and consistent, getting 1% better every day. This is my testimony, and I will bring more to silence the imposter syndrome monkey in our heads. With that being said, subscribe, like, and share this to anyone else that is going through something similar or would gain some value of this.